say, man, I don't know her. She's too quiet.
Marriage. If you want something to last forever, you treat it differently. You shield it and protect it. You never abuse it. You don't expose it to the elements. You don't make it common or ordinary. If it ever becomes tarnished, you lovingly polish it until it gleams like new. It becomes special because you've made it so, and it grows more beautiful and precious as time goes by. F. Burton Howard. What up, though? It's your girl, She's Too Quiet, and welcome to the She's Too Quiet podcast. She's Too Quiet is all about remembering your voice matters. Although you're quiet, people are actually interested in you. They want to know where you go, where you don't go, what you like, and what you don't like. Don't be afraid to use your voice. Your voice matters. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about something very interesting to me, of course. Hopefully, it's interesting to you. Now, this may help all of my single people out there, and it may help some married folks out there as well. So, let me start off by saying that I have been in my book bag. I'm currently reading this book called Blue Like Jazz, but after I'm done with this book, I am eager to hop in my next two reads, and let me just share with you the titles. So, the first one is called The Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands. This is by Dr. Laura Schlesinger, something like that. The next one is called Creative Counterpart, Becoming the Woman, Wife, and Mother You've Longed to Be. And this is by Linda Dillow. So, we're going to be talking a little bit about marriage today. So, the first one, The Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands. Let me just read to you the premise of this book. It says, Dr. Laura urgently conveys to women that to take proper care of their husbands is to ensure themselves the happiness and satisfaction they yearn for in marriage. Crazy, right? So basically what she finna teach us is you can have a happy marriage if you know how to properly care for your husband. I said, okay, it's gonna be interesting. Now, this book seems to have a lot of more real world situations. So there's a lot of scenarios, stories, that kind of thing that she gives her advice on in this book. So I'm interested to see what she's gonna be talking about. I read the little foreword and I'm locked in. So we'll see what that's talking about. Now the next one, Creative Counterpart. This is more of a biblically based book on how to be a good woman and a wife and how to be a good mother. I imagine this book is going to have a lot of scripture with it to help kind of undergird whatever the author is saying. So I am definitely going to tap into that. I feel like this one is a must read, The Creative Counterpart, just to give you kind of like an overarching understanding for women as far as who God created us to be in our role. So yeah, those are the two currently awaiting the opportunity to be read. Now, I find it interesting, you let me know if you find it interesting too, that books are never kind of out of style, right? It's crazy because I know a lot of people read books like electronically, but people still out here really writing them and really selling them still, and it's just interesting to see how popular they are. And now that I've been in my book bag or whatever, a lot of knowledge I feel is in books that isn't like commonly talked about or commonly accessible. So I really think it's really important for us to read. I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but since I've been reading, I'm like, I would have never had this sort of insight, and even like to not even take it as fact either, because a lot of stuff going on, you can't even take it like, oh yeah, this is it, period. I would still, or in my mind, you still should keep a kind of question in what you read. But I just don't see myself grabbing some of these ideas, or really fully understanding some things in life without me reading about them, right? Like, TV doesn't give enough information. Social media doesn't give me enough information. You know what I'm saying? So I've really been trying to read more so I can like get some extra nuggets that isn't just like out here for real. And let me know if that's the case for you, because I'm telling you, it's different when you actually start reading. Like, it's crazy. Like this Blue Like Jazz book I got, y'all gonna have to check it out. Let me tell you the author, by the way. It's Donald Miller, and he pretty much is talking to readers about the gospel and his journey on coming to know the Lord. The way that he is laying some of this stuff out is just pure poetry, and it's deep. It's just really beautiful. So go ahead and check that out if y'all have some time. I'm not sure what denomination he is and whatnot. He does allude to different things in the book, but still a very, very good read. Definitely some nuggets you can take out of that. Okay, so back to the point of today's episode. So, friend to the show, Sister Tara Quintara, she was on 2 episodes last season. If y'all have not had a chance to check that out, go ahead and check those out. She sent me this series on godly marriages, right? And this was a series brought to us by, let me get the name right for y'all, Calvary Chapel Ontario, and it's called God's Design for Marriage. They have 6 parts. This is part 1 we're going to be talking about today. So I'll put the link to this particular part 1 in the description below so you can check it out if you have some time. Now, part 1, he touches on, I believe, 4 different areas, and they are the origin of marriage, the covenant of marriage, the sacredness of marriage, and the order of marriage. And man, this pastor is dropping nuggets. Let me tell you this, I've grown to actually love this channel on YouTube. The pastor, he really breaks things down in a way for you to understand. He goes really slow. He has support to what he's saying, and I really enjoy this channel. So go ahead and follow them on YouTube if you have the chance. So let me tell you a couple of highlights. Now, if you intend on watching this series, go ahead and pause the podcast. Go ahead and watch it and come on back. Let's hop right into it. So the first thing that he spoke about that had me like, okay, I had a lot of moments, okay? So here's the first thing. So of course, we know that marriage, the first official marriage, took place in the garden between Adam and Eve, right? And the part that was very interesting to me was the fact that God never creates a need he can't fulfill. So in the beginning, when he created Adam, he saw that Adam needed somebody, and of course it was Eve. So he fulfilled that need. And in your life, this is a whole life nugget. If you have a need, God has something in mind that can fulfill you. So he creates Eve out of his rib, and now he officially has a helpmate. So God created us because we need each other. God ordained us to be together from the very start. As you can see, women are tailor-made for men. Okay, I said, okay, so we tailor-made. I like that. Next thing, the covenant of marriage. Now, this is the part that really, it had me like, okay. So he mentioned that the covenant of marriage is between man, woman, and God. I said, yes, totally agree. Now, this is the part where I'm like, okay. So he's talking about witnesses. The attendees of the wedding are meant to be witnesses to the establishment of the covenant. And I was like, and y'all, let me tell you this too. he said, I thought this was so beautiful. He alluded to the fact that God still attends every wedding. I said, oh, that is so sweet. Like, can you imagine you walking down the aisle, you see your man standing there, or men, you already down there and you waiting for your woman to walk down, you look to your left or your right and there God is. Like, he there for the nuptials. I said, oh, what a happy thought. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, he basically was saying that back in the old days, there was a process for when business was handled, right? So people would go and they would pretty much do business in front of a witness. The witness was there to be like, yes, this transaction happened. So for example, two men go down and one man is trading in 2 horses for 2 of his goats, right? They bring them down in front of the witness. The witness sees the exchange and they're like, okay, this business took place and it happened, right? So he said that because the witnesses pretty much attend the wedding, they have the right to intervene when they see that this couple is facing hard times. I said, what? Because you really don't see this nowadays. I mean, husband and wife, they bickering, they talking about divorce. Let's just say infidelity is not in the play. Let's just say they just don't agree. Maybe they don't see eye to eye. And a homegirl goes to her best friend who was at the wedding. Okay, and she's like, listen, I'm about to divorce this man. We about to get a divorce. Like, I'm talking papers, right? Because she was a witness at the wedding, I'm just gonna use the word advocate because I feel like that's what best fits. Like, she can advocate on the behalf of the covenant that was established. She could be like, y'all said till death do y'all part, and death has not happened, so y'all can't part. Like, no, you don't see that nowadays. People are like, that ain't none of my business, or they be like, yeah, girl, divorce him, he ain't never been nothing. Or the men will be like, yeah, dump her, more fishes in the sea. You don't really see advocates anymore for marriages. Now, I don't know if there was advocates in the past, maybe the older generation. I'm not even sure if they had advocates or not, but I was like, so the witnesses have a responsibility. And then I was thinking, like, how helpful would that be? But at the end of the day gonna end and people gonna be peopling, and they may decide, even after you advocate, that I'm getting a divorce and this ain't that no more. And of course, that can happen. That very well is true. But I found it interesting and I was just mind blown, to be honest. I'm gonna have to do some extra research in that. It looks like Malachi 2:13-14. I'm gonna have to really go back and really understand, because I'm like, whew, that's powerful. You know what I'm saying? If the witness played the role in some of these covenants, like, what would the world look like? Okay, next thing. He also talks about the sacredness of marriage. And this is coming out of Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4. Marriage should be sacred and held in high honor. Marriage should be a lifelong commitment. And when you hear it, you be like, okay, lifelong, got it. But when you sit and think about that thing, lifelong, like that mean for life. Like, y'all are saying that I'm gonna be faithful for the rest of my life. I mean, that's heavy. And you better make sure you gotta make sure that's the one, because what you're saying is, for the rest of my life, we riding or we dying, because till death. And I said, Lord, okay, I see what you're saying. Gulp. So yeah, that's another thing. And then they talked about how the man and the woman, like they are the initial family. A lot of times people be like, well, it's me and my husband, we don't have a family yet because there's no children. But in all actuality, the husband and the wife make up a family. Once you have children, they are additions to the family. And then, of course, once they start their own family, they leave the nest. You and your husband are still the core of the family. Like, you guys are still the foundation. So I thought that was cool that he had mentioned that, especially for those people who don't have kids yet and they may be feeling like, oh, I'm waiting for my family to actually develop. Well, you are developed. It's you and your husband. So I was like, oh, that's nice. That's nice. And so we all know that God sees your relationship as one flesh. And for us to really put in perspective to how much God values marriage, he said that, only death can separate it. Like, that's how serious this is. Like, we all know that there's some instances as to where you can get a divorce if there's infidelity, things like that. But his whole idea around it is y'all gotta die before this is over. Another thing to consider. I'm just telling y'all some things to consider if you were thinking about it, and if you in it, just think about it. It is a true covenant. Now, the last thing I want to touch on is the order of marriage. This is coming out of Ephesians chapter 5, verse 23. What he was talking about is the man is the head of the household, or the head of the home, right? This is an ordination that takes place at the wedding. The man is established as the head or the leader. Now, this is a major key, right? He said marriage problems are normally obedience problems. I said, ooh, that's heavy. Break it down for me, sir. And what he was basically saying is that the whole reason why a lot of people have issues or things that come up in their marriage, they have to take a look at how things are ordered. Like, it could be an order issue. That's why there's so much confusion, so much turmoil in the marriage. Some things are out of order. That's in relation to who's the leader and obedience. And we all know about submission, and he did a great job in this part 1 talking about submission and what that is. What he alluded to was the idea that women aren't in submission to their husbands, they're in submission to God. So instead of looking at it like I'm submitted to my husband, no, you're actually submitted to God and what he's called you to be as a wife. Same thing for a man. They're not, leaders of their wife. They're following the direction. They're being in obedience to God to guide their wife in the right direction. So I thought that was interesting how he pointed that out, because that's been a big topic of discussion in culture, was, how to be submitted, what does submission look like. And honestly, it's when both the man and the wife are obedient to God. That's submission. And I said, snaps. Like, if this was poetry, finger snaps, because that really helps frame, especially for, in my opinion, for women, it eases a little bit of the pressure of the heaviness of the word. Also, he mentioned the fact that men are given the position of leader. Like, they didn't ask to be the leader of the household. It's something that God gave them. So of course there's different dynamics nowadays to where men are giving a lot of the leadership responsibilities and things to the wife, and that can be because one of two things: either he feels like she could do it better, or she is taking the leadership role from him and doing it herself. And I was like, okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. So the man may have to grow in his leadership. So women, we can't take the leadership from the man if he's not leading in the way that you would want him to lead. He has to learn to be a leader. Sometimes in some situations, depending on who you got, they may have a process to grow in leadership. And then, of course, on the other side of the spectrum, you have some men who are natural born leaders and natural born, organizers. They can come up with a plan, they know how to execute. You do have that side of the spectrum as well. But if for some reason you have the other side, you have to give that man room to grow, room to make mistakes, room to redirect, without us as women having that kind of takeover spirit or not being as patient as we need to be, because he may not be the type to even want the role. You know what I'm saying? Although he was given the role, he's not fully equipped to walk into that role. And so it's just something to keep in mind. And then, on the other side too, for the females, you have women that take the role because they don't like how things are being done. And then all of a sudden they are tired, they're burnt out, they're resentful, all because they are in the wrong order. All of a sudden she blows up on him, he gets upset, and all of a sudden y'all now got some beef in the relationship. So all in all, don't ignore the order of marriage. Always try to look at it, make sure everyone's operating how they need to operate so that there is not too much conflict. So all in all, part 1, I really enjoyed it. I've actually watched all 6 parts. I'll be going over with you guys part 2 later on in the season. We can go through all the parts. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. Please let me know if you have any questions. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're interested in seeding into the She's Too Quiet podcast, feel free to give using Cash App with the handle $ She's Too Quiet. Before I go, don't forget to do 2 things. That's to love God and love people. Until next time, deuces.